Today's um, kind of thoughts are related to something that I learned in around June of 2020, which was I've been attending this dream school, night school in the dream world, since around 2010, 2011, so 13 years or so. And so I get a lot of my information, I'm in a classroom and it looks like a high school at Southern California high school, maybe, where the walls are kind of mental institution green. And I don't know what the idea of that is. Maybe they're helping us to realize this is all a mental institution that we're a part of. But anyway, one of the things they taught me in June of 2020 was that there are three ways to make changes in our lives. There may be more, but they were talking about the three ways to really focus on making changes. And those three ways of making changes are changing our beliefs, changing our behaviors, and changing our boundaries. So I think I've already done an exercise related to um, beliefs, but their construct was that beliefs are stories that are made up from unresolved events. So, events that are unresolved usually means that there were emotions left over from the event. Um, if there weren't emotions left over from the event, then the event would be resolved. And if there are emotions left over from the event, then it's an unresolved event, which is also sometimes known as a trauma. So maybe when we have experiences that we weren't expecting take place, and then we don't release and integrate the energies of the event, um, then we refer to that as trauma. And it'll come back as a memory. And oftentimes, these events that we call triggering events, which is somebody does something, we feel a lot of emotions come to the surface, and then we maybe let those emotions out towards the person who might have been doing something that was the trigger for us. But beliefs, if they are just stories that we've made up related to unresolved events, the best thing we can do is just release the energy of the emotion from the story. So the way we do that is we put when we get the triggered, we notice the stories we go into. Like, well, you should have put the scissors back where we keep them because I couldn't find them, and whatever we're doing that's bringing up all these feelings, and you never put the scissors back where the scissors are supposed to belong, or you're not paying enough attention when you don't put my favorite knife back inside the knife holder. And there could be more, more intense emotions to that, but those might be as silly as some of them are. And so, what do? Well, you take the story and you put the story in your left hand. And the story might be, you never put things back in the refrigerator where they were when you took them out. So this is something kind of still bothers me, but I used to be kind of hard-sighted, had difficult vision, cataracts and stuff. So I was I was legally blind, so I was searching for things, and so that happened to be a trigger of mine when people would put something back in a different place. It would take me a long time to look for it. So that was actually real and funny, unless you were me, and it wasn't funny. but for you it might be funny, and for me it's funny now too. So I'm using it as an example of just shifting a belief. So nobody cares about me might be the story I've made up. Nobody cares enough to put the mayonnaise back where it belongs in the refrigerator, or put my knife back where my knife is supposed to be, so when I go looking for it, it's there, because I didn't use it, but somebody used it, and it's my knife, and whatever. Okay, so then there's these emotions. So the story is just a story. You want to tell it because you have all these emotions. You think if you just keep repeating this story, people will understand and go, yeah, you should feel terrible because of that story. But if you don't, and you just take the story and place it in your left hand, and then you take the emotions and you move them to your right hand, and you separate the story from the emotions, then you can move the emotions away from the story, and you get them a certain distance away, and you disconnect them from the story, and the emotions release. Now, hopefully you'll actually practice this and come up with a story of your own about, people never rinsing the dishes enough before they put them in the dishwasher, and whatever the story is. That people start their laundry and then don't keep going and get their laundry from the washer to the dryer. So then you go down to do some laundry, and it's all this wet laundry, washed laundry, but then, there's a stack of laundry containers that are lined up, and you can't do your laundry, and whatever. We all have these stories. If we can release the emotions from them, then we release the belief that we may have made up that people don't care about us. And it may be true, they don't care about us, but it won't make any difference to us, particularly if we just don't have any emotions about it. Okay, so that's shifting reality based on shifting beliefs. Actually letting go of beliefs, letting go of almost every belief we have. So then we can just rely on our experience. Okay, so there's beliefs, there's behaviors. So behaviors are just habits. So ways that we express ourselves that produce, sometimes responses in other people in our lives. So if we say a behavior, say of another, that one might find if one's kind of anal retentive, or whatever the term is, ACDC or ADHD or whatever. If one has, kind of like specific ways things want things done, and other people aren't doing those ways. So if you have a light on in your room, but you're not in the room, and you don't need a light on in your room, and you leave it on, and you're not paying for electricity, then it's not having a direct impact on you. It's having a direct impact on the person who pays for the electricity, okay? So one can either get really upset about others' behaviors and then go around mopey and complaining about they didn't turn the light out, or as one walks by a light that's on, one turns it off. Just boop, it's settled, solved. One accomplishes what one wants, is to have less electricity running in a house, and then the other person, if they need the light on later, they can turn it back on again. And so there's an example of just shifting a behavior. So maybe one behavior was, nobody ever turns the lights off. Nobody ever turns the lights on. Do you need this light on? And if you don't need it on, why do you still have it on? That kind of thing, So that may have been your behavior at one point. And then you let go of kind of the emotions again. You just let go of the emotions. And then you go, oh, light on, light off. The light's on. It doesn't appear to need to be on, so you turn it off. And then somebody else may find issue with that and say, well, why'd you turn the light off? I was using that light. I just wasn't in the room at the time. Yeah, so it's best to just keep it silly, because there can be other things, like
serious things, like a person not replacing the empty roll of toilet paper. That's a more serious business, so to speak. So you get there, and then it's not nearby, and you're all of a sudden caught in a difficult circumstance. So that might be a little bigger than the lights, you know. It's just like if you use the last of the toilet paper. And I'm not saying anybody does that here. I wouldn't say that. But if someone does use the last of the toilet paper and they can find another roll and put it on there, that is kind of a courteous thing for the next person who might be using the toilet. So there's an example of just changing behaviors. So if you're not, one of the things that we might not be paying attention to the people around us and how our actions are affecting them. One thing can be paying attention to, how we might be affecting people and changing our behaviors to have a different effect if we wanted to. But that's a way of making change. So you've got changes of beliefs, basically letting go of the emotion of the story. Behaviors, letting go of our attachment to doing things the same way over and over again, kind of dysfunctionally. And so beliefs, behaviors, and then the last one is boundaries. So learning to respect others' boundaries. An example might be walking into a room, you know, where a person, you walk in a room and a person's doing something. And maybe a respect to their boundaries might be to to not say anything to them in case they're doing something where they're concentrating on something. And so um, you can always say, like, well, can I ask you a question? If you have an actual question that'd be useful to have answered, and the person can go, I'm busy right now. Can I answer your question later? And then you go, yeah. But you begin to pay a little more attention to the other person's boundaries, which helps you to pay more attention to your boundaries. So, how are people interacting with you relative to your boundaries? And how intact do you keep your boundaries? Um, there are people, and you may be one of these, you may have been one of these people who um, other people can get upset easily. They can upset you easily, and you get upset and you let this energy go towards the other person. Well, energy is energy. So a person who might be termed energy vampire might be just attempting to get you upset to take some of your energy because they need more energy because they don't know how to bring energy up from the earth for themselves. So that might be an example of improper boundaries. Just not paying attention again to the people in the world around you. Not like, even for an example, I might be like petting a cat, but not paying any attention to petting the cat, and not paying attention how the cat's responding to how I'm petting it, and all of a sudden the cat, might just clamp onto my hand or something to give me an indication that this isn't really enjoyable for me, and really, cats kind of feel like if you're going to be petting a cat, you should pay attention and do it well, and pay attention to what the cats, if they'd like you to, do more over here or whatever, they give you some signals. So that's a means of paying attention to boundaries. So the three ways to make changes are beliefs, behaviors, and boundaries. And if you have any thoughts on that or have any questions, like and subscribe, and then you'll be able to post comments like, "Oh, that was so brilliant! I haven't really thought of anything quite that brilliant in a really long time." And or you can say like whatever you want, really. So that's good for today. Today is the 13th of January, 2024, according to one calendar system, and probably some other year based on somebody else starting their calendar at a different time. So, but anyway,
in much of the world, it's thought to be 2024 right now. I can't say it isn't, or I can't say that it is. So that's it for now. Hope this finds you well and with a lot of joy in your heart and the ability to make changes so that you do have a lot of joy in your heart. Okay, so that's it. Now let's go.